So you probably hear my cats in the background as well.
Oh, yeah, very talkative.
So, Moira, you came to our inaugural retreat just over a month ago, about 5 weeks ago, I think.
Hmm.
And do you mind me saying, you're in recovery, aren't you, yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
About 27 years in, just had your birthday, didn't
Yeah.
you? So, where were you before this, and kind of what happened on the retreat for you? What kind of occurred? Why did you come along?
So I'd been feeling for quite a long time that I was kind of stuck in my head on certain really fundamental issues. And I'd been introduced to the art of meditation about maybe 6 months before, maybe not that long before the retreat. And I was getting real benefit from that, but was really aware that I kind of wanted something more. And so it was like meditation was like a taster of something different that I could tap into. And so when the retreat was suggested to me, I felt really excited about it. I talked about it to people, which is really unusual for me because I don't normally talk about things in the future. I normally live very much in the day, which I would say kind of backfired on me slightly when I got there, but it didn't really. But I did, I think, subconsciously set up an expectation. People were saying things like, "Wow, Zen Buddhist retreat. Oh, wow. Well, that's going to be really," people who are in touch with meditation and who love the whole spiritual, tapping into our spiritual energy in life. People who, and I have a few friends who think like that. So they were really excited. They were like, "Wow, what perfect timing," because I've been through a lot of change over the last couple of years.
So this kind of expectation is kind of a little bit unhelpful, isn't it? To start.
Yes, exactly.
Kind of gets
yes, it was very unhelpful.
Like another barrier.
Yeah, as was witnessed on the Friday night.
Yeah.
I got very cross.
and it was recommended by a mutual friend of ours who's done these as well, who's also in recovery.
Yeah, and she's very similar to me. She's had a long-term recovery and just felt like there was something more, that there needed to be something more, or wanted there to be something more. And so
I think that word as well, that stuck, you said it at the beginning, that's a word that really resonates. I think there's a stuckness.
Yeah, and it's kind of, you don't even really know you're stuck in a way, if that makes sense. You kind of don't, you're on a reel of, recovery is amazing. It's incredible. It's saved my life. AA is my foundation for living. I work the steps continuously, but I was stuck with certain patterns of thinking and patterns of behavior that just wouldn't shift. No matter how much I felt like I was working the steps on them. I've always been a huge service person. I've done loads of stuff, I've embraced the whole AA program.
And you're trained as a therapist as well, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had lots of therapy over the years, and that hasn't got to this deeper level either. And I suppose I must have sensed or hoped that there is something more to tap into that is I guess I didn't really think of it in these terms, but I guess I was hoping for something that was another resource, really. I guess that's what I was looking for.
So what kind of happened then? When you because the reason why we've done this now is that we didn't want people immediately after the retreat when they're all goggle-eyed and like this. So we wanted a bit of a distance from that. So I mean, what happened? What was the change? What was the shift? What did you kind of feel that what happened during that? Yeah.
So I think that hitting that point of resistance over the expectation was really key for me.
Mm.
I always struggle to let go of stuff. I'm a real head person. I always think I can work stuff out. I'm very visual, so I visualize, how my life's been. And I had a wonderful, it was like a visual feast to the retreat for me. I was reflecting on it this morning in my meditation, Alice in Wonderland, beheading people, Queen of Hearts, all dragon slaying princess, and all of that. It really fires me up. I'm a aspiring writer as well.
Just to say, these were kind of visions and images which were coming up for you, weren't they?
During the intense one-to-one work in the retreat, and they were incredibly powerful because I think they only started coming up. So we should go back to the point of stuckness, and so because I had this expectation, I didn't feel that anything was happening for me on the Friday night, and I think we've been doing the intense work pretty intensely since the Friday morning. We started it on Thursday evening, and I was feeling really frustrated because my head wasn't getting what it felt it wanted. So I wasn't feeling, and I could hear everyone around me going whoop and getting very excited. And I was like, that's just not fair, typical of my life. Everyone else gets it. I'm left just not understanding. And so I filed a complaint, chatted to you and had a little complaint. And then actually what that did was it enabled me to let go. I let go of the expectation and just let go of it. And so then like with AA, when I first got sober, I couldn't get sober for a year and a half. And when I finally let go, I got sober. I couldn't receive this until I let go.
Perfectly put. Yeah.
So then, So the shift, I think, is, and then I just felt this. Obviously, I had all my exciting images, which I get very carried away with, and they fuel my creative spirit, which is great. But also, with them was a huge sense. They preempted a huge sense of love and space, just this huge internal space. That boundless was the word that you used, and I just kept coming back to that the first few weeks after the retreat. Boundless space, boundless energy, this feeling, this eternal flow of love. And a couple of really difficult things happened really shortly after the retreat, and because I know I was posting floaty, I've entered another world, I'm in a spiritual realm now. And then these difficult things kicked in, and I used the meditation, I used that sense of boundless space and love, and it felt like that had become the foundation. So
and it is. This is another thing afterwards, because right at the beginning I said, this is for adults, and it can get bumpy afterwards. There's preconceptions about all of this, about what it is, what might happen when it's realized, and then afterwards everything will be hunky-dory. And if you remember, I spoke about it changing from suffering to pain.
Oh, no, that was the hugest. Yeah, that was the hugest shift for me. That was the hugest mental realization that made sense of what had happened emotionally. So moving from suffering to pain.
Yeah, so it moves from that kind of identification of I am this and clinging to or pushing away from, to just experiencing it. And when we're kind of allowing this in the way that we are so open, it's very raw, isn't it? And this is what we experience, and it's the rawness of this stuff, and but it rinses through, and that's a beautiful thing. That's the change. So I was we're both 27 years in now, aren't we? Which is kind of so it's recovery is kind of it's not a linear thing, is it?
It's layers and phases.
For myself, I was 22 years and I was kind of lost and I was in despair. And the whole of this thing is about that connection and the knowing, so we know that we're enough, we know that we're whole, we know that we always have been, we always will be. And this just seems to be a really efficient method to get to that point of knowing. And for me, that's why it's so important, this, the whole of the idea of AA coming out of the need for a spiritual awakening. And that was Carl Jung's take on it, and Bill W. kind of getting that through the lineage and then getting a divine download. And then I was reading recently a book by a Jungian analyst called Ian McCabe, and he was talking about, went through the archives up at the the AA head office. Mm. He was looking at the letters between Jung and Bill W. Mm. And that need for this awakening to be engendered without, mood or mind altering substances was Jung's take on it. Mm. And Bill W. was in later, sobriety, dallying with LSD, experimenting to try and get these shifts, to see how it would be, because he knew that at that time they'd had 300,000 success stories through AA, through the 12 steps. Mm. Yet they'd had 500,000 who hadn't got it, and he wanted to help those that hadn't. Mm. And for me, it's both of that, and also over time, our awakenings can kind of backfill in. So this is another way for me of getting that awakening.
I think it's an evolution, and I think it's really important. Personally, my personal view on it is it's really important that people are at a state of readiness in themselves. I think that's really, really important. It's like, I would compare it to a client coming to me being told that they have to have therapy, and comparing that with a client who's come in because they're desperate and they've looked up on whatever, or they've asked around and found out somebody that they think can help them. Because I think resistance can be, even I had resistance and I didn't even know I had it, because I had the mental, I knew I was a head person, but I think you have to be at the right state of readiness, and that's going to be different for every person. It's not like I can't say, it's like sometimes in AA, people used to say to me, when I was at first sober, like, yeah, I felt like that since about 5 years. And I was like, I used to think, well, I'm going to top myself then, because I'm not going to feel like this for 5 years. So I never, ever, ever say anything like that to anyone, because we are all unique individuals. But I do think being in a state of readiness is really, really important. And I think anyone watching this, or anyone who approaches you, I do also really, really believe that the universe presents when we're ready. So, for me, nothing has been presented to me, or nothing has come up for me that I haven't been ready to deal with. So I just completely trust that. This came onto my radar at 27 years. Nothing like this had come onto my radar before that. So
yeah, likewise. And I'd done an awful lot of meditation practice and stuff. And on the retreat we had people who were a few months in, couple of years, 3, 5, 7, 6, 8, 12, that sort of length of time. And absolutely, as you said, if people ask me about this, this is it's the blue or the red pill, and you want to look deeply before doing it, because we change. There's a change. And for me, it was a molecular relaxation,
Sorry, Matt, can you pause for 1 second? I'm really sorry.
No problem.
Sorry, my daughter. I'm too strong. Okay, so just do another 10 minutes. Fine.
Yeah, I 100% agreed. This is, but we have had people who just stumble across it, and when you stumble across it. It's like none of this is, by chance. Like
Well,
say,
it's the God incident thing, isn't
yeah,
it? That there's no such thing as a coincidence once you're on a spiritual path.
yeah. Well, people don't even know they're on a spiritual path. They just come. And then it's like, but it does seem important to explain it to people, and to explain about the bumpiness afterwards. And that's, it's why we have the communitas, the community online, and also, which we meet up, and the practices which we do, and the course afterwards to help embody this. And then with the group, it kind of makes sense of it as well.
Yeah, I found the WhatsApp group particularly really helpful, because I felt I'm on the edge of the precipice a couple of times. I felt like my head has gone back into negative, and for me, once I have one negative thought, it can domino effect across everything. And so by posting that, and meditating and doing the group online meditation on the Tuesday, also yelling's been pretty good for me in the car. I like that one. Didn't have to do it for that long, actually. It was interesting. Got through the anger really quickly. I think grief is a different thing for me, but yelling was, it felt like it released really quickly. So learning, I've done that in my recovery, mainly at God, not usually at one person. And I did it at one person, and it was really effective. Not at them, but in the car, using, they were the focus of my anger. So being reminded, or adding those into my toolkit. Those techniques. So but definitely it's definitely bumpy. It's not, I was floating when I came home. I was like, I've entered another world. This is, I'm a spiritual being floating around, grinning the whole time. People were like, oh, you're zen, are you? I'm like, yes, good, Moira.
Excellent. Yeah, good. Well, it's good to have you on board. And
thank you. Good to be on board.
Yeah, I know you're going to do more, and that's what we recommend is that a few to widen the pipe and really settle it in. It's not so bouncy. We go through stuff quicker, and there's no race in this, but it's once this is open, it seems to all we do is provide the fertile ground for it to unfurl and unravel in its own time, and be up for looking at it. That's it, and honouring it, respecting it, giving it its time and space. I think that's the practice, and embodying that, being with it and being curious as to what the message is behind that. So, all right, Moira, thank you very much, darling.
Okay.
Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. Gym competition beckons with all the joys that entail.